Alright, let's get right into the game.
One.
Tracer and Junkertown is Tracer is not usually the first thing I'd pick on Junkertown, just because DPS power level is really defined by sight lines, the length of sight lines, and Junkertown has really long sight lines, automatically favoring heroes like Widowmaker. Even Junkrat is good here just because you can spam those sight lines from safety. But Tracer is one of those characters you can always make it work if you play it right. It's just that there's a lot less room for error in Junkertown, and also because the sidelines are so long, it requires a lot more prep and a lot more thinking about which angles you're going to approach. Because the more time you're in an enemy long-range DPS's hit scan from far away, the more time they have to kill you before you get close enough to do damage to them. And that's kind of how the matchup works. If you start off the fight, like if they first notice you when you're already right next to them, you already have a huge edge. But if they notice you when you're like really far away and coming close, that gives them a time window to damage you before you can even reach, maybe even force out a recall. And if they force that recall before you reach them, well, that's pretty much over. You can't push further than that. Okay, you're taking the angle. Both their DPS are there, which is great. Taking both their attention. That's exactly the place you should be playing at. Could wonder if you can keep distracting their DPS over there without dying. Unlucky trap, but it's fine. Yeah. You can never go directly in Junkertown because of the long sidelines, like I said. You have to take side angles. Perfect. Yeah, and the other thing about this map is that you're like because you're perma flanker, you have to go for the DPS or the supports first. You have to go for the back line. And the Widow didn't even notice you until you were shooting at her, which is what I said, which almost guarantees you the win in that duel. It's very important though, you have the accuracy to actually get the kill in that situation, not let her push out of the way. Because for one cooldown, she basically wasted like 30 seconds of your time if she managed to get away. When you're playing Tracer, there's a really important aspect that might not be there or other heroes, which is the part right before the fight. So while other heroes might just look at the part before the fight as waiting and poking at long range, Tracer has no value from doing that. So as soon as the fight ends, you got to be thinking about where you want to be standing before the next fight starts, and the answer to that is usually the high ground. Tracer is one of the heroes that requires the most amount of prep before a fight. So try to look as soon as the cleanup phase is over of a team fight, like there's like the normal phase, then you clean up the remaining kills. As soon as you're free to do what you want, you kind of have to go and set up in an advanced position, which in this case would be like behind them in that big health pack room and those stairs, and like be crouching and stuff so they don't know you're there. And you have to invest the time to be in that right place before the fight starts. Now the fight has already started, and you're in a position where you can't have any value at all. And if you do go over there now, they'll see you going. Which there's like a lot of problems with what's your position right now. And setup is really important on Tracer, more than anything else. Yeah, now you're kind of forced to be in a position where you're like focusing their tanks, which is not what you want to do on this map, because the DPS have getting so much value from like a long range sideline. So focusing tanks is really suboptimal for you. You have to be a perma flanker on these kind of maps with long sidelines like Watchpoint, Gibraltar, and Junkertown and Havana. You can't really spend much time with your team at all. You really got to be flanking a lot, just because of the nature of sidelines and the value other DPS will get in the main fight. You're still on the low guard. Okay, you're taking a good place now. This is the way you're supposed to go before, and keep going up in that big health pack room. And behind them. That needs to happen at some point, otherwise you're just gonna get zero value, and you're gonna be stuck wondering, why am I playing Tracer instead of a long range hero pick, or at least a 3 or something. Alright. So, you know what's up. Like, this is the only way to get value, this is the only way to do damage as Tracer. Lucky. I didn't think you needed to recall there, I could've just waited it out. Recall's a really massive cooldown when you're flanking. Recall basically dictates how often you can actually even go in and do damage when you're fighting. So you want to be conservative. This is great. You start off behind them, they engage on your team, overextend your team, gets the better of them, and you can help clean up. It's perfect. Now the main thing you need to look out for here, like after that fight is over, you finish the cleanup phase, immediately think about setup. Where do you want to be standing when the enemy team come out of their spawns and come to their right locations? Where do you want to be hiding? Like pick your hiding spot, pick your setup. You seem to be doing just that. Perfect. This is what Tracer is all about. Especially on like payload maps, long sightline maps. The setup is like so important. And you're doing it. Great. I think you should have been a little more patient. Okay, that's perfect. I mean, you got value there because you had ult and you stuck it. You just again. There's no problem. Also, you don't have to stagger them coming out of spawn. I feel like it's a mistake a lot of players make because if you do that, it's usually going to be a 3v1 situation. You probably won't be able to kill them if they notice you, and they'll force out your cooldowns and your blinks, and you'll be like far away from the fight. At the end of it, you'll be far away from the fight, and you won't have gotten a kill, and you won't be able to help your team. It's like a really suboptimal situation. It's a really high risk to catch them coming back from spawn, unless they're alone. It's better, the hiding spot that you chose up there, you could just be like chilling up there, wait for them to actually come back to the fight, and actually fight in the fight itself. Of course, it's not a bad thing to get people coming back from spawn, but when they're together, it's really risky. Tracer gets a lot of value in the big team fight as well. She's not just a duelist. There's gonna be another stagger, and another stagger, and again, immediately, as soon as this is over, you think about where do I want to be standing when this next fight starts. You got trapped there, nothing you can do, but yeah. So what I would have done, like, is kind of seems like a small point now, but that Ana got cleaned up over there. You have a few seconds before the next fight starts. Immediately take the stairs up, hide over there, set up for your next fight. If there's one thing that I can really, like, one knowledge that I can pass on in this VOD review, it's gonna be about that as soon as the cleanup phase is over, you really gotta be thinking about that. Widow is really good on this last point as well because of the way the high ground is, so it's gonna be interesting to see how you get value against the Widow pick. Junkertown is throwing. You could have gone in on the first recall when he got bubbled. If he got bubbled before you killed him. Good thing saving recall there. Trusting your team. Freaking ignored. That's lucky. But yeah, smart to like waste recoil on that poke damage and just wait for your team to heal you up. Nothing you can do really. The tanks will get infinite value against you basically. Yeah, you gotta go around, go for the Widow. Unless your team is really pressuring their tanks and you're just cleaning up. Nice. Again, yeah, ignore the tanks. The Tracer doesn't always ignore tanks. She's actually kind of a good tank buster, an underrated tank buster, but just because it's one of the maps with long sight lines, you gotta, like, Tracer is one of the heroes where the map really defines your playstyle. Maybe it's because there's so many different viable playstyle options with Tracer. Like, you can be a frontline tank buster, you can be a disruptor, flanker, and assassin style. There are lots of different playstyles, but which playstyle is good is really defined by the map sometimes. And in a map with one of the longest sidelines, the flanker playstyle is really OP compared to the others. Just because they're gonna be playing long range DPS, they'll get way more value than you if you just play tank buster style. Plus they can pick you up too. You just gotta get out of there. Not a great comp for you to be messing with right now. Bring on a Junkertown, but it's fine. Tracer Never throw quick. You can always get value. Mm. Okay, good. Going on a side angle. That's what I like to see. Yeah, going high ground. Blocked by the turret, but it's fine. You can deal with it. Nice. Perfect. It's so much easier to stick a pulse when they don't know you're there. Even though that wasn't a stick. Oh yeah, and even if you don't stick it, they're more likely to die to it if they don't know you're there, because they don't know where it came from.
With every death comes honor.
Guess you did choose to swap, which is good. The Torbjorn is kind of a big problem for you, shutting down flanks. And it's just so much easier to get a value out of a long range DPS in this map, because you just stay with your team and shoot. You can almost instantly feel the impact of the swap. Maybe not in the damage that you did, but just like your team is like more together. It's safer for them to like push up together. Nice. Good decision to use the storm arrows on the shield there. I mean, one part of me wants to say that you made that swap too late, but then again, it's not like you had to swap Tracer. Like, that was not a necessity. You could have gotten value out of the Tracer, but I guess it is worth pointing out that getting value out of the Tracer is way harder than getting value out of the Hanzo. Like, you actually have to go alone and get kills on your own in the backline, and that can be a big ask. So if you feel like you can't do that, you should have swapped earlier. It's like kind of a difficult thing, but that's just how Junkertown is. There's a very high chance you won't get value out of your pick, and long range hits game is just the meta here for a good reason. It also hurts that your comp is Rank Sigma. Rank Sigma is a brawl comp, right? Because of Ryan, similar to Ryan's Zarya. And they are going to be kind of focusing the tanks more. Then you have the Brigade to help you. Nice. This is a good up angle at the start. I don't know why he didn't use his immortality earlier. I think he like disrespected your ability to kill him. Nice. In this first phase, this is exactly what you should be doing. Like, this is like one of the only flanking angles available to you, and it's really risky. So it makes sense you can focus it. Is he gonna not immortality again? Oh, you didn't actually need to that time. I think you. That was a mechanics thing. Could have done more damage to him there for his start immortality. But that's just a small point. What you were doing was the right thing. I guess the Tracer pick on this map does demand that you make these kind of outplays to get value though. Like, maybe on other maps, Tracer gets value even without making like serious outplays, but on this map, since you're gonna be alone so much of the time, playing Tracer, there's like a requirement to make these kind of outplays. That's good. Sticking Brig is always the best stick target in the whole game. She's so hard to kill without it. It's great value. Hey, you did your roll there. The team fight. Your other DPS will to Torb, which is not good for you. It's not good in the matchup. Torb is like really good against flankers and stuff, but instead of running Hanzo and Ashe, you can easily kill his turret from far away. It's not a good pick. It's not a good pick on this map. It's not really a long range DPS turret. Also, your team just generally lacks a lot of damage. Two like closer range DPS. It's fine. It's not like it's not enough to win. Very nice. You should be able to win this duel. One of the big things about Tracer is resource management, which I haven't really talked about because it seems to kind of have it down. Because it's good. Like in this map, it's really punishing. Like you can't go into a fight without recall. In other maps, you might be able to mess around with it a little bit, but this it's like really black and white. You don't have recall, you don't go and you don't flank, you don't do anything. And you seem to be managing the resources as well. Tracer is all about resource management and getting max value out of your resources. Like I said earlier, the problem with going into the back line against like 3 people and not getting a kill is you'll be using your resources to run away from that situation. Then suddenly you're in the back line and you're running away, so you're probably running even further away from the fight, and you won't have any resources to even get back to the fight. Like forget to contribute to it. So it's like a really complicated game almost. Like, are you able to go into the back line? Can you threaten for a kill? And do you have the resources to come back and be like some sort of presence there to help your team? Like not overflank and just like not be there at all. This part of the map is actually phenomenal for Tracer. Any part of the map with like really good high ground that can offer threat to low ground. High ground is great for flankers because you can jump off the high ground to the low and they don't see it coming. It's a natural assassin's tool. Oh, that was really bad. You should have seen that going in like that. In a way, it actually worked out for the better because you have to reset. Your team has lost the fight.
Back to work.
This is worth actually examining. I want to see how you could have gotten more value after that Ash kill. You go up here. This is perfect. You get the 1v1 on Ash. This is what you want as Tracer. It's not even a 1v1 even. It was just a 1 versus 0. She was looking elsewhere. Okay, yeah, this was the problem right there. Yeah, this was the problem. So after you get the 1v1 on Ash, you're behind them, you have all your blinks, you have your recall, you almost have your pulse bomb. So you're in a good place to do a lot of work. And you kind of throw it all away by blinking into the meat of their team. Even without a break, that's just a bad idea. Yeah, like that play right there, that's what screwed it up. What you want to do is you want to keep your resources, go on the flank. Like we know out of retrospect that you would have been able to catch out the map if you never tried that approach. If you instead went here, you would have been able to 1v1 another member of their backline, which is just so much value. Yeah, I mean, again about this map, but also in general, avoid the meat of their team when you have their resources behind them like this. You are in your prime. You are where you want to be. One of the heroes that can one-shot you is dead, and you want to get value. You want to keep picking them off one by one. You're only good in the meat of the team fight when your tanks are there taking away attention from you. I mean, it's all really kind of complicated, but in low ranks you can get a shit ton of value if you play it right. The best part about Tracer is it's not even really about mechanics. She's really a lot about decision making. Choosing to go somewhere else, choosing to use blinks suboptimally, that ends up being way more important than mechanics. Choosing to go back in there was well for stuff like that. Like, recall is everything, especially against the Prig. At this point in the game again, I'm wondering, should you go onto the Hanzo? Snipers are so good at this part of the map. Not only is there high ground, but there's like high ground in like safe places where you can like hide out and be super far away from the action. Especially for defenders. You seem a little lost right now, like you don't know who to focus. Because you can't kill the brig. The Hanzo's there, protected by the brig. That brig is doing a really good job trying to get down. She's just doing exactly what she's supposed to. But yeah, the Hanzo's a viable target, but you're coming from only two different angles. It's really obvious from the ground. You need to invest some time in your setup phase. Go up to the high ground so you can drop down on the Hanzo or the brig. Okay, you got your brig's friendly. Oh no. There was a chance for you to get a lot of value on that spread. Quite a bit on that. Yeah, the Ash and the Hanzo. They're just outvaluing the Torment Tracer in a big way. Like, the Hanzo's on near the team in the back line, the Ash is on top. Nobody can threaten. You have Ryan's Sigma. Or you're the only person who can go up there and contest that Ash. And you're not doing it. You're just staying on the low ground. So either you play a different style of Tracer, go for those individual picks, ignore the team fight, ignore the tanks, or you swap. Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty cool game to review, honestly, in the end, because it's like you didn't really do anything wrong mechanics wise, and even in terms of resource management, it wasn't like you went in when you were low on resources or anything. It was all about decision making. I hope you learned something when I tell you about the setup phase, especially important in these long sideline maps. I think you should spend some time figuring out your role in the matchup based on your team comp, the enemy team comp, and the map. And it's very clear that in this particular match, your role should have been as a flanker. And flankers need a lot of setup time, going up on the high ground, trying to get the jump on Ash, trying to get the jump on the squishies on the low ground by jumping on them from the high ground. I think you would have had a chance to win this match if you had played high ground more, secured high ground, and also you securing high ground would have stopped their DPS from getting value from up there. And a long range DPS getting value from high ground is such a big problem to this Ryan Sigma comp that can't really do anything about it. But yeah, well played. I hope you learned something.